So for the last 3 years here in Le Mans, the all-time weekend attendance record has been broken by our passionate French fans. 4.19 kilometres in length, 2.6 miles, 14 corners, 5 left, 9 right. A short start-finish rate of just 674 metres. Scary sweeping that first corner, 6-gear blind entry going into turn 2. Good overtaking opportunities, particularly into the Museum corner, turn 7, down the hill into Garage there, turn 8. The lap complete in that final sector. Record them on turns 13 and 14. Overtaking hotspots, but there are lots of them around this Le Mans circuit. This was last year. Fermin Aldeguer standing on the inside of home hero Fabio Quartararo, who started the Grand Prix from pole. Well, last time out in the blazing sunshine of Andalusia was Alex Marquez, aiming to make it back-to-back wins in front of his home crowd at the Circuito de Jerez Angel Nieto. This early move proving decisive on brother Mark, who was to taste more Grand Prix disaster. This crash on just the second lap of the Spanish Grand Prix. Another big dent in Mark's early championship challenge. That left Alex to coast to back-to-back wins in front of his home crowd. What an experience, what an atmosphere we witnessed in the 4th round of the World Championship, our first visit on European soil in 2026, hotly pursued by what has already so far been a phenomenal French Grand Prix. Spectacular action here on Practice Friday, as that ride on your screen, Johann Zarco aiming for back-to-back French Grand Prix wins. Well, he had the fans delirious already on Friday afternoon when he led the way in the 60-minute practice session. Fabio Quartararo, another home crowd superstar, on pole position here last year. He led the way in FP2 and then followed 2 incredibly thrilling qualifying sessions in MotoGP ahead of this Michelin Grand Prix of France. Marc Marquez destroying the all-time lap record in a record-breaking Q1 session this morning, a 1:29.288, seeing the reigning world champion on the factory Ducati get himself into Q2 with Fabio Quartararo. And at the end of yet another dramatic session, how many times have we already said that so far in 2026, and we're only in round 5. Pecco Bagnaia took the spoils. A factory Ducati 1-2 on the grid for the first time since Brno last August. Bagnaia's 1:29.634, securing his first pole position in 7 Grand Prix. His first front row actually as well, since that very same Grand Prix at the Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia. Bagnaia's 3rd pole here in Le Mans, following up poles in 2022 and 2023. Marc Marquez, after his heroics, after his brilliance in Q1, is on the front row of the grid once again. Marc will go from 2nd, and World Championship leader Marco Bezzecchi, who's looking for his first sprint medal so far of 2026, having had 3 falls in our first 4 sprints so far this season. Bez completes the front row of the grid. 11 points clear he is of his factory Aprilia teammate Jorge Martin. So many stories, so many topics to already cover off, and we've not even started this 13-lap sprint, and we've still got the Grand Prix day to come tomorrow on the blazing sunshine here in Le Mans. In the commentary box for the sprint, which will be lights out in about 25 minutes time, Matt Burton, Lewis Sutherby, as always, joining you with Jack Appleyard down in pit lane. Lewis, what a session we had this morning. What 2 sessions we had this morning in qualifying. Marc Marquez's jaw-dropping 1:29.288, a new all-time lap record. He was actually a lot slower in the 2nd qualifying session, but still on the front row. Pecco Bagnaia looking back to his best. Home hopes resting on the shoulders of Fabio Quartararo, 6th on the grid. Johann Zarco with work to do from 11th. But all the ingredients are set for another spicy old sprint.
Cannot wait for this one. Just 23 thousandths of a second covering the top 3 on the grid. I guess the reigning world champion, the former world champion, and the one who wants to be champion in the form of the current points leader, Marco Bezzecchi, making the front row of the grid. You've got the 2 factory Ducati riders who ended up in not the direct route, but they ended up 1 and 2 in the sprint, the chaotic sprint of Jerez 2 weeks ago, and the rider who has really fluffed his lines in 3 of the 4 sprints so far this season. Is today the day that Marco Bezzecchi gets over his sprint hiccups so far this season, or is this another day where Marc Marquez injects some life back into his World Championship defence?
Yeah, Mark 5th in the World Championship coming into this round 5. Speaking of number 5s, let's have a look at Johann Zarco, the 35-year-old Frenchman, with a bit of work to do, starting from the middle of that 4th row of the grid here in Le Mans today and tomorrow. His hopes of a top qualifying position not helped by a late fall at turn 13 in this morning's FP2 session. But the end of all the drama, keeping his cool in some high-pressure situations, was Pecco Bagnaia, the 29-year-old Italian. Ended Friday's track action here in Le Mans on his backside, a crash at La Chapelle at turn 6. But he has been superb so far on sprint Saturday. Looked really, really strong this morning in FP2 on warm Michelin rubber. And when it came to time attacks, the 129.634, as mentioned, Bagnaia on the head of the grid here in Le Mans for the 3rd time. He's 28th MotoGP pole position, 35th of his Grand Prix career. Dare we say it? Dare we say it? Is Bagnaia back in 2026?
Well, it was a question we asked for a lot of 2025 too, wasn't it, for Pecco Bagnaia? Of course, the one time this year where he has started somewhere near the front, which was in Austin, where he qualified 4th. He then did lead for 99% of the sprint before Jorge Martin overhauled him on that final lap. So Bagnaia, generally when he qualifies well, that is a pretty good sign. Marc Marquez, well, good signs today, certainly better signs than we saw from the world champion yesterday when he ended the day outside of the top 10. It's a statistical quirk, isn't it? It's unusual when the fastest rider in qualifying doesn't take pole position. But that's what we got earlier on today with Marc Marquez, who I guess produced a lap that I guess the brain was switched off, the eyes were closed, and he hoped for the best, and he got a 129.2 to take his place in qualifying 2, but he was picked at the post in the end by Pecco Bagnaia this morning. Just 12 thousandths separated them. Ducati undefeated in 3 previous sprints here in Le Mans. 22 sprints Marc Marquez has contested for the factory Ducati team. His win record is astonishing. He's won 16 of those 22. Can he make it win number 18 in sprints overall? Perhaps missing out a little bit later on, perhaps with better pace than his grid position suggests, is Jorge Martin on the factory Aprilia. Jorge, without any question, is certainly one of the fastest riders in race trim throughout this weekend. But once again, he's just lacking that killer instinct, that explosive one-lap pace on the factory Aprilia. This is the calling card for Jorge Martin in Q2 so far this year. 5th, 5th, 7th, 7th, and slightly worse ahead of this French Grand Prix, a season worst 8th place for Martin, who on his last race visit here, of course, to Le Mans, was a double winner, winning the sprint and the Grand Prix in brilliant fashion in 2024. Yeah, we had such high hopes for Jorge Martin coming into this weekend after his Jerez test ended pretty positively. He was very bullish, wasn't he, with his step forward that he felt he took at the Jerez test, although there haven't been many signs of that reflected so far this weekend. Here's one of your stars of Super Saturday so far, of course, cheered on by a partisan home crowd. Fabio Quartararo joined Marc Marquez in the top 2 in qualifying 1, and for the 2nd time this year on the V4 Yamaha, which is clearly the least competitive of the 5 manufacturers in MotoGP at the moment. 2nd time this year, Fabio Quartararo has got himself through Q1 and on to the front 2 rows of the grid. Without a sprint podium since the Catalan Grand Prix last September. Of course, we make a fairly quick return to Catalonia next weekend for round 6. Fabio De Gianantonio, well, he continues his excellent qualifying record so far this season, has not started lower than 4th so far. Could it have been better had it not been for a rather bizarre incident towards the end of Q2 when a bee got inside his helmet? A real pest for Fabio De Gianantonio. He goes from 4th place on the grid. Let's go and get the thoughts, though, of a guy who knows his way around this Bugatti circuit. He was spectacular here in the past. A former great, Sete Giovinazzi.
Yeah, absolutely. As the MotoGP bikes roar into life, and you can just hear the atmosphere from this packed grandstand behind us. Sete, what an atmosphere this is. You were here last year to enjoy what was one of the great MotoGP moments, and I have to say, from what we've seen so far this weekend, pretty difficult to know who the favourite going into this one is.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, you know. Tomorrow is tomorrow, so all the guys now are just focused in today. It's going to be interesting with this weather, and what happens today for sure is going to be important in order to understand how is everyone going to play tomorrow. So today I think that the temperatures are also going to be pretty high, and the tires are going to be okay for this amount of laps, so we'll just have to see. But it's going to be interesting, and also after what we saw in qualifying, also with Dijan Antonio and Mark, and so it's going to be interesting.
We've had plenty of Saturday sort of skirmishes so far. From the outside, what have you made to the start of the year of Marc Marquez as the defending champion? It felt as though this morning he really started to look like himself again, which hasn't been the case in the opening 4 rounds.
I mean, this of course is my personal view, you know, but I don't think Mark is having a good time with his physical condition. This is apart from the physical condition, which is a part that is I reckon is for sure. It's also in his mind, you know. It's getting him a little bit more nervous than normal. Which is absolutely normal, you know. He's having to deal with a new circumstance in a moment that he was not expecting to be having this trouble again, and this is for sure affecting his state of mind. So we'll just have to see. In a short race, maybe it's going to affect him less than in tomorrow, the long race. So we'll have to see.
It's going to be fascinating to see. Great to see you here. Enjoy the race.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff, Jack. As always, thanks to Tissot Gibernau. There's always a strong rider around this hard-braking Bugatti circuit. And Marc Marquez, physical. What are the main issues for Marc at the moment? Is it physical? Is it technical? What is not up for debate is he's already given himself a bit of an early mountain to climb in this year's World Championship. 44 points adrift of Marco Bezzecchi. Those two starting alongside each other on the front row of the grid, of course, as Fabio Quartararo comes to the back of the second row in 6th place already, as they do such a fantastic job here. The local organisers whipping the French crowd into a bit of a frenzy pre-sprint here. All the hopes and nation's hopes resting on the shoulders of Quartararo 6, Johan Zarco in 11th place. Well, he knows how to get a tune on 2 wheels around France, doesn't he? Let's go and get the thoughts of Tour de France icon, Tour de France legend, Mark Cavendish, who joins Jack.
Yeah, he does indeed, and rather unsurprisingly, he might be able to guess that cheer come in the direction of Johan Zarco and Fabio Quartararo as they take their spots on the grid. Mark, you helped these guys warm up on Thursday with one of our cycling events, but from what we've seen, you did a good job because everyone has been on good form so far. How much have you enjoyed what you've seen of the action?
It's been great, hasn't it? You know, at least the weather's good here in Le Mans, so okay, we're here about tomorrow, but it's always good when it's good weather here, you know. It's been an interesting season to watch, and this is always an interesting circuit. It's one I really like to come to, and no, it's been great. It's really good to see actually Fabio here on the second row for the sprint. Hopefully it's not because it's his own race, because he's going good. You know, he was going really good this morning, and I'm excited to be here and watching it. You know, I love a bit of racing. It's great, isn't it?
You'll have seen year in, year out with the Tour de France how much these fans behind us get behind their own. None more so, none more reflected than the atmosphere they build and how passionate they are for both Fabio and Johan. It really is quite something to experience.
Well, particularly when they see a win like Johan got last year. Like, that's the thing. Like 71 years, I think it was, since the last French.
Good knowledge.
And well, I know from cycling, you know, the French are passionate. Like, sport is for every person, you know, and people live and breathe it, and like a champion, and when they can show that and do their country proud, the whole country feels and gets picked up by it, and that's something special for you here.
Very quickly, have you got a pre-sprint prediction? Who's the winner?
No, don't do that.
Good idea. Difficult to predict. Cheers, Mark.
Yeah, thanks very much. Tour de France legend, a sprint king himself, of course, on 2 wheels minus an engine. Who's going to be our 2-wheel sprint king here in MotoGP? Marco Bezzecchi then on the front row. It's a real mouth-watering front row of the grid, isn't it? Pecco Bagnaia and Marc Marquez, a couple of our recent MotoGP world champions, by a rider who's trying to take that accolade. Currently leading the World Championship, Marco Bezzecchi, 101 points. Although it's fair to say sprint Saturdays, Lewis, have been his big headache so far this season. He's crashed out in the sprints in Thailand, in America, and most recently in those tricky conditions in Jerez.
Yeah, and you have to go back to, I think it's Pisano, isn't it? Last year, the last time Marco Bezzecchi has won a sprint. In terms of sprint points, he'd be 13th if that were a World Championship all on its own. Fortunately, Sunday's count 2, and he's leading the points. It's Pecco Bagnaia who leads the grid, though, from Marc Marquez and the aforementioned championship leader Marco Bezzecchi. On the second row, not that you can see it there, but I promise you it's Fabio Di Giannantonio starting fourth from Pedro Acosta and Fabio Quartararo. Let's have a second crack at it. Bagnaia, Marc Marquez and Bezzecchi as mentioned. Di Giannantonio, Acosta and Fabio Quartararo, of course the riders starting second and sixth, both came via Q1. Quartararo has the soft front tyre on, certainly that's our initial information. Mia Martina Nagura on the third row from Alex Marquez, who crashed in qualifying. John Zarco, the 11th place where he qualified last year. We know how that went. Alex Rins 12th from Ralph Fernandez, Bastianini and Marini on row 5. Morbidelli, Toprak Razgatlioglu and Diogo Moreira on row 6. Jack Miller 19th. It's been a miserable weekend for both Fermin Aldeguer and Brad Binder. They're both on row 7. The only rider behind them is Tech 3 stand-in Jonas Folger.
So the latest information we have received from Michelin, as you saw on that grid graphic, suggests the only outlier, a bit of a left field pick. I guess he's feeling he's got nothing to really lose. Fabio Quartararo, as it stands at the moment, is the only rider in the 22-strong field who's opted for that Michelin soft compound front tyre. Hottest conditions of the weekend so far. A lot of riders obviously favouring the better stopping performance, the better braking stability with that harder front tyre. Stop and go, this Le Mans layout. So much demand on the front tyre, particularly when you're looking at the downhill braking zone into Garage there, where you're scrubbing off, what, 265 kilometres an hour. You're approaching Garage there, turn 8 in fourth gear, and then you're back 3 gears, so about 80 kilometres an hour for that turn number 8. So as we mentioned, Pedro Acosta, well, the two factory KTMs at opposite ends of the grid, really. Middle of the second row goes Pedro Acosta. Work through for poor old Brad Binder. A tough day so far for the South African in 21st. What does the boss think of it all? Let's get the thoughts of Aki Ajo with Jack.
Yeah, great to be joined by Aki. Pedro, middle of the second row. Felt this morning like he extracted the maximum from his package. What can he do? What would be a good result here in the sprint?
First of all, yesterday was quite good start for us here, and difficult to say if this is maximum. I feel that it was not a perfect lap today, first of all, and his feeling of the bike was really good. I would say that when in the morning cold conditions we need to use soft front tire, maybe this is something like a little bit disadvantage for us. Our bike is really good in entry into the corners, the braking, and let's say we a little bit need to attack into entry into corners to get something extra with our bike. And I hope that now with the harder front option, it's fitting even better for us.
Fingers crossed. Good luck, Aki.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Aki Ajo. Sounds like he's been joining the French fans in the grandstands, cheering his heart out, doesn't it, Aki Ajo? Obviously, a bit of a sore throat for the Finnish boss. Well, then it was a positive weekend so far as the factory Yamaha goes, with both of their riders, Fabio Quartararo and Alex Rins, going into Q2 this morning. Quartararo 6th, Alex Rins 12th. Let's get the thoughts of their boss, Mario Meregali, with Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. Mayo, both bikes into Q2 this morning. Just how much of a boost was that for everybody in the factory garage?
Yeah, it's a big boost. This morning, Fabio has been able to put together very good lap times. It was consistent. He also played to check the tire degradation for this afternoon race. But now it's very difficult to have an overview about the race. However, we will try to maximize what we have been able to put together in these 2 days.
Our information is that Fabio, the only rider on the grid to go for the soft front tyre. Is that the case, and what's the thinking behind that?
Actually, we are really discussing now what to do, and the last decision has not been taken yet.
Okay, well, we'll keep a close eye on it. Good luck, Mayo.
Thank you.
Sounds like that's going to be a last-minute 11th-hour decision then, as far as Fabio Quartararo's team goes into this sprint. I mean, Yamaha, you feel like they've got absolutely nothing to lose, in particular Quartararo. The Yamaha quartet have scored just 15 points between them so far in this year's MotoGP World Championship, and brought crashing back down to earth a little bit after his heroics here in France has been Alex Marquez. Lewis, He had a bit of a tumble this morning as well in qualifying. His lowest starting position in 13 since he was 11th on the grid at Balaton Park in Hungary. Alex has got some serious work to do coming from the head of that fourth row.
Yeah, just to get into the points from there. Aigura here on screen, the rider immediately up ahead of him. Alex Marquez was keen to point out yesterday when he spoke to our colleagues in the broadcast set that this circuit perhaps doesn't suit him quite as much as Jerez did, and that's been reflected in the results so far. So Fabio Di Giannantonio then, he perhaps was disappointed to miss out on the front row of the grid earlier on today. The start is clearly going to be key for Digia. Can he get himself in and amongst the front row action? Pablo Nieto speaking to Jack.
Yeah, you feel that's the huge question, Lewis. As you told me in the lunchtime break, Pablo, a little bit of frustration to be on this second row of the grid, but that's behind you now. We spoke on Friday about the importance of Fabio getting the bike off the line, nailing the starts. Is the plan for him to do anything different to try and improve that area ahead of this?
Yeah, always is difficult, no? But anyway, we're talking that it's really important the first chicane, try to survive that place, because we know it's very easy to go longer, and then over there you are not trouble, no? But anyway, I think yesterday we was very fast. I think now Fabio is on fire, we know. So we have to try to keep pushing, keep working, because it's going to be very hard, but like every Saturday and every Sunday. So let's see.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, Di Giannantonio, thanks Jack, thanks to Pablo Nieto. Fabio Di Giannantonio has just continued this sort of golden run he's found himself on. Best of the Ducati riders so far this season in the championship. He's 30 points going into the sprint behind his compatriot Marco Bezzecchi, who will be taking our latest maximum 12 points on offer on Sprint Saturdays so far this season. Despite all of his great qualifying performances, Digia has only been able to convert one of those so far this season into a Saturday afternoon podium. That was a second from pole position at Goiânia in Brazil.
Have we seen a change here for Fabio Quartararo? It looks like we have. He has joined the rest of the field on the hard front tyre. We did hear from Aymar Gali a moment ago, said it would be a late decision. Looks like the decision now has been taken. I did wonder, because Quartararo did more than sprint distance on the soft front tyre in FP2 earlier on this morning, a session that he did end up fastest in, but track conditions and the temperatures were much cooler than they are now. So clearly the hard front tyre should get up and running and get up to temperature on this opening lap, which I guess would have been the concern.
One of the first riders this weekend to actually experiment with the hard front tyre was Pedro Acosta, who we just saw there on screens, middle of the second row for the 21-year-old. Jack just confirming that Fabio Quartararo has indeed switched to the hard front tyre. So level playing field in terms of Michelin rubber. Every rider on the hard front soft rear tyre. Pedro Acosta, 12 Grand Prix podiums, 12 sprint podiums so far in his MotoGP career. Well, the factory Aprilias, we know that they are always super strong in race trim. Marco Bezzecchi on the front row of the grid looking to extend his World Championship lead. And don't discount Jorge Martin from row 3. He's got great race pace as well. Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Paolo Minora with Jack.
Yeah, 4 sprints so far. Marco Bezzecchi has only seen the checkered flag once out of those 4. How big is this, Paolo, mentally for Marco to stop this run? There's been a lot of bad luck involved in that as well, but to make sure it isn't something that starts to play on his mind.
Yeah, for sure. Every race is important for the championship. We don't want to think about, he doesn't want to think about, but to be very honest, it's necessary to get the most we can. For sure, he did a very good time attack, despite of the 23 millisecond and the first split that he lost 0.2 seconds. So we think that he did a great job, and Org as well, because the gap between the first and the last 10th is very short. It will be very tricky today, because the first corner is necessary to take care about it, about the line, to think about the other competitor, but we have a plan, so and we totally trust, as usual, on both of them.
Are Ducati a step ahead so far from what we've seen, or do you feel it's pretty equal?
We think that we have to take care about us. It is 2 small places where we have to improve, as I said to you this morning, and we did something. So looking forward for this race, and it will be very useful this sprint for the tomorrow race, the long one. Good luck. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Aprilia boss Palabinor. It feels like the last sort of 10-11 months or so, MotoGP has been an Italian duel between Aprilia and Ducati. Aprilia, in terms of this year's championship, clearly have the upper hand. The onus in this sprint is going to be on Bagnaia, and Marc Marquez getting a good start, because what we have seen repeatedly so far in 2026 is that factory Aprilia, that RSGP, is an absolute rocket ship off the start. Marco Bezzecchi, that's a key reason why he was able to lead 121 successive Grand Prix. That's because, one, he qualified well, but two, the Aprilia launches off the line so well. So going to be interesting to see how Bagnaia and Marc Marquez cope with a potentially fast starting Bezzecchi alongside them.
Let's head back down to the grid then and hear from Davide Tardozzi with his rider starting first and second. Davide's with Jack.
Davide, I have to say, I'm pretty excited for this one. You guys first and second on the grid for the first time this year. Are you ready to make a statement?
We'll see, because I'm sure that Bezzecchi will try very hard first lap. Then we'll see. But there are at least 4 or 5 riders that can fight for the podium. Hope that our 2 will be there, but anyway, the most important thing is to collect points for the championship.
Are you slightly nervous, hoping that these Jerez test improvements are going to be shown on track?
Always here in Le Mans for the first corner.
Good luck.
Important to collect points is the message from Ducati boss Davide Tardozzi. Thanks, Jack. That message, I mean, who would have thought coming into round 5 of the championship, the factory Ducatis 5th and 9th in the overall standings, coming into our second European clash of the campaign.
Yeah, although the success that has been hard to come by for the factory Ducati team has come in sprints so far this year. Marc Marquez has won 2 and lost another on the very last lap, of course, in Buriram. Pecco Bagnaia has been second, silver medal in the last 2 sprints. Of course, lost one of his potential sprint wins on the last lap when Martin passed him in Austin. So Saturday's success has been easier to come by for the factory Ducati team so far. But yeah, Davide Tardozzi is right to point to the first corner. It's officially turn 3, of course, on the track map, the Dunlop chicane. Bagnaia's sprint and Grand Prix ended there last year.
Luca Marini, we just saw a quick glimpse of the Italian. His weekend started in brilliant fashion. Fastest in FP1 yesterday, but it's been downhill ever since. Marini 15th on the grid. The 2 factory Hondas, Marini 15th, Joan Mir heading row 3 in 7th place. So some embraces, some good luck messages from his Aprilia crew to Marco Bezzecchi. Can he stop this sprint slump so far in 2026? He's on the front row in 3rd place. Marc Marquez, after that blistering all-time lap record this morning, goes from the middle of the front row in 2nd place. But for the first time in 2026, the first time since Sepang last year, when he did win the sprint from pole position, here on pole in France, Pecco Bagnaia.